take on the responsibility to end racial segregation. Your words were so eloquent, and it really is a responsibility that each and every one of us must take hold on and take heed to in order to accomplish this. It's not going to be done unless we do it ourselves. Thank you. I'd like to now turn time and yield time to the gentlelady from Ohio, Representative Joyce Beatty, who I'm honored to serve with on the freshman class. I am so inspired by her leadership, and she is such a dynamic spokesperson on so many important issues before this body, and she truly is a committed public servant. I yield time now to the gentlelady from Ohio, Representative Joyce Beatty.
Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague. Thank you so much, Mr. Horsford from Nevada, for leading us in this Congressional Black Caucus Special Order Hour. And also to my colleague from New York, Mr. Jeffries. Thank you for your leadership. It is an honor for me to be here, not only as a member of Congress, but someone who lived through our topic tonight. If we pause for a moment and could go back in history, that unanimous opinion written by Chief Justice Early Warren held that separate educational facilities are inherently unequal, and that segregation of schools violates 14th and 5th Amendments of the United States Constitution. This decision, Mr. Speaker, signaled an end to the state-sanctioned segregation of public schools in the United States, making it unlawful to deny access to public facilities on the basis of race. Striking down segregation in our nation's public schools, providing a major catalyst for the civil rights movement, and made advances in discriminating and desegregating housing, public accommodations, and institutions of higher education possible. On the anniversary of this landmark decision, we acknowledge and applaud those who endured and lived through those days of crises so all Americans could enjoy the right to vote, the right to equal protection of law. It is the Brown story, but it could have been, as we heard from Congresswoman Barbara Lee, the Barbara Lee story. It could be the Congresswoman Joyce Beatty's story, because I grew up during the same era of time as a young child who, thank goodness, had a mother and father who understood the link of discriminating against African Americans, who understood the link between redlining in housing to education. And so they made a brave step and moved to an all-white neighborhood so I could go to an integrated school. It reminds me of how Oliver Brown probably felt on that day when his young daughter, Linda, had to walk some 21 blocks through all kinds of elements and traffic and danger zones to get to the segregated school, when just 6 blocks away from where they lived was an all-white school. So you see, he took on this challenge because of his young daughter, and at that time having another daughter that would follow, and not knowing that there would even be a third daughter to follow. But at the age of 32, at the time of the suit against the school system, he, a Baptist minister, a welder, a person who was active in his community, decided that he would let his name be put on the lawsuit. He testified that many times his daughter had to wait in the cold, to wait for a bus to take her to Monroe, even though, as I mentioned, 7 blocks away from an all-white elementary school. That's the Oliver story. So when we think of the Oliver Brown story and we think of Mr. Brown, who opened up the schoolhouse doors to Americans, regardless of race or color, it created an opportunity for millions of Americans. Sadly, the promise of the Brown decision remains unfulfilled in many ways today. Millions of American families face trials and tribulations related to their color, creed, or religion. Even today, 60 years after legally sanctioned educational segregation ended, the legacy of this discrimination can still be found in our schools. If you look at graduation rates, in the university, and yes, in the workplace. Today and every day, we must rededicate ourselves to raise a new generation that may seize their opportunities. It is incumbent upon us as lawmakers that we make sure that Americans are able to have a quality education, that they are able to exceed and succeed in all that they endeavor. And while we pause in celebration of the 60th anniversary of the Brown decision, we should not rest on our laurels until equality for all is a reality in our nation. Just this morning, a Columbus School Board member reminded me, as Shauna Gibbs wrote me this note, she said, Mr. Speaker, no longer separate, but still fighting for equality. So as I close, I asked us to look at this visual and know that Oliver Brown's fight was for all of us 60 years ago and today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady from Ohio for her very personal remarks and reminding us that the decision of Brown has very real impact on the lives of individuals. And for some in this body who lived during the time of segregation, to be reminded of how important the Brown decision was to changing that, and to also remind us that we have a commitment to the current and future generation to ensure that we never go back to those days. So I thank the gentlelady very much for giving us that personal reflection on what the Brown decision means to her. Now, as a member of the House of Representatives, just think how far you've come and how far so many children in America deserve to go, and that's what the Brown decision is really all about. I'd like to invite the co-anchor for this hour to the podium. Each time the Congressional Black Caucus takes time to the floor for this special order hour, it's intended to bring up provocative issues, discuss important policies that deserve time, and also to challenge this august body to focus for at least a while about issues that don't always dominate the mainstream agenda. But you know, there's no one who does this more effectively than the co-anchor that I have the honor of sharing this hour with. I've learned so much from him. He brings personal passion, experience, and education to the issues that we try to bring forward under the leadership of our chair, Marcia Fudge. And it's his words that I know this evening will be so poignant as we reflect on the 60th anniversary of the Brown versus the Board of Education decision. I yield now time to the co-anchor of this special order hour, my good friend, Representative Hakeem Jeffries from New York.
I thank the distinguished gentleman from Nevada, my good friend, Representative Horsford, for his eloquence and for his leadership, for anchoring today's extremely important CBC special order commemorating the 60th anniversary of this historic Supreme Court decision. And I look forward to our continued partnership as we move forward dealing with issues of significance, not just to the districts that we represent in Nevada and